is also a rhythm instrument because you can hit it. It's also a melody instrument because you can play melody.
There you have it, Havana Madrid. It has been a hit when it was here in Chicago. The first time, it's a must-watch production here in the city. It tells a story of the evolution of Latinos throughout our neighborhoods here in the city. And so joining us to tell us about a comeback of the production are three great people. Sandra Delgado, she's the playwright, actress. Also right next to her, Michael Kendo returns in the role of Tony Quintana. And Isette is joining as well. She plays the role of Maria, and Isette Munoz is her last name. So thank you for coming into the three of you. This is exciting, huh?
Yes. Thank you.
It seems like it wasn't too long ago that I was just talking to you about the first production when you did Havana Madrid the first time. What's changed this time?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, we've had 2 years in between the two productions, and it just gives everyone time for everything to kind of sink in. And we're back with our great director, Cheryl and Bruce. And so I've had time to go back into the script and just make little tweaks and deepen everything. I think one of the things I'm most excited about in this production is that we've had the time to really now explore more of the movement. People always were like, we want more music and we want more dancing. So there's going to be a lot more dancing right now.
All right, Mike.
We have this wonderful choreographer, Wilfredo Rivera, who's the artistic director of Cerca Rivera Dance Company here in Chicago. And him and his parents, they're from Honduras, and they came to the show the first time around. And Wilfredo told me that him and his mom just wept the whole time. It just meant so much to them. So now we have this wonderful person who really, his heart and soul is in every single piece of movement that he's given us. So that's really, really exciting.
Let's bring Michael Kendo into the conversation because you were a big part of the first production. You're now in the second production. What has changed for you? What's your role like this time around?
Well, you know, I am lucky enough to know Tony Quintana. He was a friend of my father, and of course a friend of the communities back in the day. And so, you know, it's kind of nice to come back in that same role. And now, like Sandra has said, I've had 2 years to really think about what he meant and who he was to the city and the contributions he made. So it's really, really exciting. I will be dancing.
All right, let's talk about this. Dancing.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, La Havana Madrid was that. It was a place where you went and you danced. And that's how back then a lot of people, that was the gym. That was the exercise, you know, to go out and dance. El cha-cha, el mambo, salsa, you know, and so it's really exciting. I mean, and like she said, Wilfredo has done a beautiful job of really capturing those vintage dances. It's really cool.
I said, how did he do with the dancing? Be honest.
He was pretty good. We have to cha-cha together, which is pretty fun. My parents are dancers. They dance folklorico. And so for me, as an actress learning the dance, it's so much, you know, as an actor, you use the words to communicate what you feel, but what if you don't have the words? And with dance, especially with our Latinidad and our culture, we can communicate to our community in a way that it's so accessible. Like even if you don't speak English, we have Spanish in our show, and people in our community just want to see themselves represented, and Sandra did that so beautifully.
Okay. For people who are just coming in and learning about La Havana Madrid, let's explain, let's sort of give them the background of where this comes from and what the story's about.
Yes, so La Havana Madrid was a nightclub that existed on the corner of Belmont and Sheffield in the 1960s. And now, if you want to know where it is, it's actually Milio's hair salon. It was on the second floor, and it was started by this Cuban man, Luis Aloma, who was a baseball player for the White Sox. And he started it as this Cuban men's club, and then he decided to turn it into a nightclub in like 1961. And eventually, Tony Quintana, Puerto Riqueño, took it over in the mid-60s, and it really was this gathering place. You know, like Aisette says, you know, music, you know, I'm a theater artist, but music really is the great connector, in my opinion. And So people from all these different Caribbean, Latinx countries, you know, Cubans and Colombians and Puerto Ricans who lived in that area by the lake in the 60s, they would all come here, and this was a place where they could forget their troubles, they could speak Spanish, they could dance, and it was all ages, you know. Back then, it's not like a nightclub that we think of now where you have to be 21 and up. Like, families would go there, and Aisette plays a character, Maria, who, you know, is like 13 the first time she goes there. And yeah, so it's a reimagining of this magical place.
What do you think has led people, Mike, to come back and want to watch it and want to be a part of this production? Because, I mean, you played it the first time. It was a huge hit. Now you're coming back. They just did an article in the New York Times about this wonderful production. I mean, when I say it's the must-watch production, I think, here in the city, it really is. Well, but why do you think that is?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, and I say this again and again, you have to see it. If you have any roots in Chicago as a Latino in the 60s and the 70s, be it your grandparents or your aunts and uncles or whatever, you have to see it. It's a wonderful, wonderful lesson in the history. It captures that era wonderfully. And it is a really, really, the story of being Latino in this city is a story that's shared by many in the different neighborhoods in the city. Los cubanos, los puertorriqueños, los colombianos. And that part of the story, the way that it comes together, the way that Sandra put it together, everybody shares. And then you add dance to that, and then you add the history, and then you add the politics to that. Well, the stories weren't all great. There were some things that were not so pleasant in that time. But people come back for that. And those who come see it, it happens with almost everybody. My parents have got to see this. My aunt has got to see this. My kids have got to see this. And I tell teachers all the time, take your students. It's a wonderful Latino story. You have to see it.
And one of the coolest parts of it is that it's very sort of interactive, right? So I remember the first time when I watched it, they were kind of dancing around me, right? Because you're basically on stage as one of the people that goes as a viewer, and they're dancing around you, they're performing around you. What did you notice when it came to that? How was it for you?
Oh, it was beautiful. I was lucky enough to be a part of the workshop productions in the beginning, back when we didn't have it performed and produced just yet. And so I got a chance to watch it as an actor and not be a part of the first production, and it was amazing to see it come to life. It really feels like you're in that club. It really transports you, and I'm so lucky that now I get to be an actress that gets to bring people up from their seats and dance with them every night.
Yeah, it is very cool. Is there part of the storyline? Because I know you did a lot of the research, Sandra, for this. All of the research. All of the research. Let me correct myself. So in the last 2 years, is there more research or more information that came to light that maybe you've now added into the script that we didn't know before?
You know what's so interesting is that I started writing the script about 3 years ago. And when we had auditions for the original production, a lot of the issues that are in the play, because yes, it is highly entertaining, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna dance, but it's also gonna make you think. It's about the history of Chicago in the 60s, but a lot of these issues, you know, segregation, racism, immigration issues, people being displaced from one neighborhood to another, all this stuff is all alive and well right now. So if anything, I think the piece has become even more timely. So there were like tiny, tiny little changes I've made, but the piece just keeps resonating in these really unexpected ways.
I love it. I love it. Okay, Havana Madrid. Tell people when it starts, how they get tickets, all the good information that they need to know.
Yes. So Havana Madrid is a co-production between Teatro Vista and Collaboration. We're going to be at the Den Theater in Wicker Park beginning May 11th through June 22nd. And you can visit the Den website, thedentheater.com for your tickets.
Okay, Teatro Vista and Collaboration. Thank you to the both of those organizations for helping put this together, and thank you guys for coming in.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon.